Zone Faction.
Watch the podcast.
I don't want this to be hurtful. The SEC is still the best conference in the world.
Alright. I'm going to go cry now. Thanks for tuning in. See y'all Tuesday.
We're going to talk a little football.
Let's get it, baby.
Welcome back to this week's episode of the Red Zone Faction. I'm your host, Scott Wilson. We have a lot to get to today. Let's go ahead and start off with my State of the Faction address. Alright, unfortunately this week we're going to start off with something I really don't want to discuss or talk about, but I feel like it has to be done, so we're just going to go ahead and do it. But here's my opinions on the kneeling of the national anthem. Before I say anything, I feel like what needs to be said first is this. Before I'm a male, before I'm white, even before I'm an American, I'm a Christian. It shouldn't bother me, or I shouldn't be upset that they're kneeling. It's hard not to be, because I don't get it. I don't understand. I mean, I understand the point. I've said this about the Kaepernick thing a billion times. I'm not against at all why they're doing what they're doing. I'm not at all. I understand. We are more divided as a nation than I've ever seen in my entire life, and I'm 40 years old, and it scares me. We are more divided today in 2017 than we have ever been in my lifetime. Racism does not have a color, and I think that's what's left out here. You're $1 million players, okay? You make millions of dollars to play a game. If you're so passionate about going and making a change and wanting to, fix this social injustice, maybe you can do something. I know there's a lot of work done in communities by some of the NFL players, but why not go and spend your time in the lower income housing and visiting families, mothers, broken homes, fathers, these kids, and spend a little bit more time in these communities explaining to them about breaking the law and, respecting, your authority and police and your first responders, and, and bring, we'll go with you. Let the police come with you or whatever and talk together. Show some kind of unity within the community. Go there. Go, these athletes that are kneeling. How about every one of you get up, grab a cop, go to a ghetto, and talk to these children, talk to these parents, these single mothers and fathers, and talk to them and try to, teach them and get them to understand that, we're all in this together. If you want to be a role model and you want to make a change, then you make the change. Stop telling the commissioner what to do. I mean, you want to support? Yeah, okay. But let's talk about it and let's come up with a reasonable solution. Kneeling during our nation's anthem is not in any way a solution, because all you're doing, frankly, is pissing people off. And eventually, the ratings have already dropped. People stop buying tickets. The NFL is going to go to crap. I mean, let's be honest. It kind of has over the last 8 to 10 years. It's already started to diminish as it is. It's still a great game. It's still a game that I love. I've heard people say they're going to boycott. Even I have mumbled it. Things keep going the way they are. I may turn off the TV. I don't know. I was, like I said that on the Sunday and Monday, and I was upset. But I've kind of cooled down since then, and kept a level head about things, because after all, I am a Christian before I am anything. I don't want this for our youth. I think I have a son who plays football, and I think about him when it comes to this kind of stuff. He even asked me the other day, why are they kneeling? I don't understand. This is our nation's anthem. So to hear him say that, he said, I would never do that. Well, then you're doing okay, because I hope you don't ever do that. Be respectful, even if you agree That's the thing. Even if you agree, find another way to do it. And it's okay to talk. It's okay to have an opinion, and I think that's kind of where we're at too. If you have an opinion about something and it's something you don't agree with, you're racist. Oh my God! Well, the racist card has been blown up so much, it doesn't have any weight with me anymore. Nothing. I mean, I've been called a racist. I've been called everything in the book. And most of the people who've called me that need to take a look in the mirror, because it's more their problem than mine. Let's come up with a better solution. Let's go into these communities. I'm not saying they don't, because I do know there are players. Malcolm Jenkins, the Eagle, safety for the Eagles, he does a lot of work in the community. And he's one of these people that are he's one of these folks that are, going out there doing this, and he wasn't kneeling, but he likes to raise his hand or fist or whatever during the anthem or whatever. And I'm like I said, I'm not against any of that stuff. I just want another platform. I want another way for this to be solved, another way for this to be fixed. And I do think that going into the communities with our first responders, with our police, and having a community unity. I mean, because that's today, at the end of the day, that's what we are. We are unified as a country. We are supposed to be unified. We are the United States of America. Act like it. This is the home of the free. Do you understand that without any of that bloodshed for our country, we are no better than a third world country. With the United States of America, act like it. I'm done. Moving on to some football. All right, now we're going to move on to our college football scene. A lot of good football this week. Alabama took on Vanderbilt this week in Vanderbilt, and pretty much made Vanderbilt pay for the call-out after last week's Vanderbilt game. Bama wins that 59-0. Georgia brought Mississippi State down back to ground level after their huge win over LSU the week before, 31-3. Georgia getting it done. Auburn handles Missouri 51-14. Florida slides over Kentucky. Now, I said this last week in last week's podcast. Don't be surprised if I'm in here talking about Kentucky winning. Florida beats Kentucky 28-27. LSU handles Syracuse 35-26. That score was a lot closer. I have question marks about LSU right now and where they are as a program. So we'll see what happens, because I really expected LSU to blow Syracuse out, and it was not a blowout by any means. Texas A&M, Arkansas went to overtime. A&M would pull it out 50-43. It's official. Neither one of these two teams have defenses, which is not the only one. There's a couple of teams in this division, in this conference. This SEC conference, and I will say as a whole, the defense is lacking in a lot of these teams right now. A lot. So yeah, that game, A&M and Arkansas, all that did was tell me that it's official. These two teams aren't ready defensively, and they're not going to minimum any games within the conference. Tennessee slides over UMass. That was another close one. 17-13. South Carolina over La Tech, 17-16. And that does it for the SEC scores for the week. SEC outside of the division this week. I know they weren't exactly, powerhouse teams we were playing, but being Syracuse, UMass, and La Tech. But we got 3-0 for the week outside of the conference. So good job, SEC. And some other scores from outside of the conference. TCU over Oklahoma State, 44-31. I didn't see that coming. I thought Oklahoma State would do well. That quarterback there in Oklahoma State's pretty good. I thought he could make a run at the Heisman, but I don't know about that anymore. We'll see what happens. North Carolina State takes care of FSU, 27-21. I thought that was I watched that game actually front to back, and I was a little concerned about Florida State right now. They do have an up-and-coming quarterback. They've got a freshman out there. He struggled, but got better as the game went on, I thought. He showed some composure. He seems to be a little hot-headed. So he does a lot of talking, especially to the coaches. So we'll see how that works out. And I love Florida State, so we'll see what happens with them. And I wish them nothing but the best going forward. But they've got a long season ahead of them. All right, we'll ship over to the upcoming week 5, SEC football. We got a good one. Ole Miss comes to Tuscaloosa to take on Alabama. Vanderbilt's at Florida. New Mexico State's at Arkansas. Sleeper. Georgia is at Tennessee. I think that'll be a good one. That game is always good. Eastern Michigan is at Kentucky. Mississippi State is at Auburn. Troy is at LSU. South Carolina is at Texas A&M. The intriguing games to me this week, obviously the Ole Miss Alabama game, Georgia Tennessee, Mississippi State at Auburn, I think will be very interesting. I really want to see what happens there. I think those are two good offenses. With Auburn's defense, you want to believe Auburn can pull this one out. But with Auburn, they're Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. You don't know which one you're going to get. That offense is the most predictable offense I've ever seen in my life, and it's so they got so much work to do. They have so much talent at receiver and other places and running back. You would really believe Auburn would be better than what they're doing. I mean, they put 51 up on Missouri, but Missouri has absolutely no defense at all. I think their defense is worse than A&M's and Arkansas, and it's just so I wasn't surprised at all that Auburn put up 51. I think Theodore High School football team could probably do that too. So let's go over to the outside of the conference matchups games watched this week. USC is at Washington State, and the one that Sam Tarantola has guaranteed victory in, Clemson at Virginia Tech. Sam Tarantola has come out and said numerous times on numerous forums that he guarantees victory. Virginia Tech will beat Clemson this week. I'll be keeping my eye on that one for sure. I'll have to have Sam on the show to eat his crow. Now we're going to move on. I'm going to slow down on my pick'ems. I had a terrible week in pick'ems, by the way, but I credit that to a lot of what's going on. I think that people were so... I honestly can't... I can't believe I'm going to say this. I think that there were players that played in the NFL this past week that had their minds so much on the national anthem, they played like crap. I think that they have put all of that ahead of their game. I saw a lot of teams get beat this week. And is it a coincidence that Pittsburgh didn't even come out and you got beat by one of the crappiest teams in the NFC? And really? You got beat by the Chicago Bears. You're the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like you're like top 3-4 of the AFC. You are a playoff contender. You are a Super Bowl contender of the AFC, and you lost to the, garbage Chicago Bears. That game shouldn't even have been close. I know it was in Chicago. I got it. But there is absolutely zero reason. But when the head coach is so passionate about all this too, and this is all you already talk about, like, did you prepare for the game this week, or are you set up just for the national anthem? Because that's what I get out of it. That's really, really what I got out of this week with some of these teams, especially Pittsburgh. So, there's no excuse, none at all, for why Pittsburgh lost to Chicago. None. Not a single thing they can tell me. Okay? Nothing. That game was an embarrassment to Pittsburgh. So, and after you sat in the locker room during the anthem, except for your one soldier, former Marine, that came out, and then he apologized later in a podcast, at a press conference, saying he was sorry for having, I forgot what the words he used, embarrassing his team or whatever. He took it on him for coming out and, putting his heart to the flag and because he said he made his team look bad or whatever. No. You're the only one that did the right thing out of everybody. So don't apologize. You're good. And you were doing what they were doing. You were standing up for something that you wanted to believe in. What's wrong with that? It's what they're doing. Why are you apologizing? You didn't do anything wrong. You're doing the exact same thing they were. You were standing up for what you believe in. So props to you. But some of these games this week. So I'm going to slow down on my pick'ems and just move on and not focus on that so much right now, the way things are going. And I'm just going to jump straight in to fantasy football. Here comes the Lost Tribe of Alabama. All right, Lost Tribe of Alabama this week. Week 3 scores. Regulators took care of the 10s. Vodka. I'm shortening Sam's name because I don't use profanity on the show. So it's Virginia Tech kicks. So Vodka, I've abbreviated it. Vodka is over the Warriors. Bombers over Insano. Soldiers over Dirty. A-Team over Roadkill. There was not the excitement of last week because most of these games were already pretty much decided before Monday night. Vodka and my Warriors, we duked it out Sunday night, and that was the closest game of the week. He beat me by less than 2 points. So that was a hard loss. I was 2-2 in my leagues this week, and that was one of my losses. All of my games were close this week, but that one definitely hurt the most. It was also the closest, and really thought I had that one going in. Russell Wilson and Doug Baldwin really did well for me Sunday afternoon, and I thought I went up far enough to get away from him, and sure enough, it was not enough for Cousins, Chris Thompson, and Marshawn Lynch. Between those three, Lynch didn't do too much, but Chris Thompson and Cousins had a hell of a game against the Raiders and brought him back to defeat me. So that was the big game of the week. Everybody else took care of their business. There was really no other close game in this league. Everybody kind of got either blown out or handled their business. Nobody else was that close. Roadkill was the disappointment of the week. He only scored 83 points. And let's see, the high score this week was again the Bombers. They're having an outstanding season. The Bombers are 3-0. Congratulations to Mark. Let's do some LTA standings. Then we're going to move over to my week 4 predictions for how this league turns out this week. I got the Soldiers over the Bombers in the main event. This was going to be close, but I'm giving the Soldiers the dub. You know what to do. We're moving on to the Red Zone faction. There was really only one close game in this league this week as well, and that also included me. So, but on this end, I actually was on the winning side. So, my heart didn't stand too well this week against all these close games in fantasy football. Even my losses were close, all but one. One was close, one was not. So, anyway, We'll start there. The Killers slid over the Silverbacks. Jay, you're not going to hear anything out of me this week as far as trash talk because that game was really close, and you had every chance to win that game. You came at me hard, and, I honestly felt like you were going to win. So you're not going to get any trash talk out of me. Good week, man. Good game. And I got nothing negative to say or no jabs to throw. So, good game, and I look forward to playing you again later in the season. Bulls took care of bye week. That game was way out of hand. It would have been the butt whooping of the week had not the Wranglers completely destroyed the Destroyers. That would have been the blowout of the week had Winston not taken care of Matt the way he did. So, Bulls over bye week, Wranglers over Destroyers. Dirty takes out Fam. That game was kind of close. It was about 11 points, 10, 11 point difference there. And then, of course, Michael takes out Perfect Season Killers at the end. That game was probably about a 13-point difference, too. So, not a butt whooping, but, good enough, a good, comfortable win. And, like I said, not as exciting as the Lost Tribe was for the second week in a row, but it definitely, on my end, with these close wins, or these close losses, whatever it may be, these games are too close for me. I'm just ready to whoop somebody's tail. Let's go ahead and look at our Week 4 matchups for fantasy football. Winston and Bert are just ahead of everybody else, especially Winston. Winston's just doing it this year, and and I'm going to take some credit for this. Winston, if you're watching the show, if you remember way back in August, I told you the last time you won this league, you were the Tuna Wranglers. Ever since then, you've just been Team Kennemer. Well, what did I tell you? You changed your name. You played. The last time you were the Tuna Wranglers, you won a championship. Right now, you're 3-0. And you're killing everybody you play. So I'm going to take my credit in that. I just did that. That's there. So anyway, all right, we're going to end the note. We're going to end the show on my final note. My final note: raise your hand if your fantasy football first round draft pick has flopped on you more weeks than not. I mean, I could sit here and name. I've got Jay Ajayi in 2 leagues. I've got Bell in another league. Dude, these guys, they have flopped on more weeks than not this year. And I know Ajayi's not Ajayi's fault. Week 1 he didn't play, but that's still a dagger. Not his fault, but still a dagger. And Bell has just not performed up to my expectations in the first round, with it being a first round pick. And Ajayi gave me 5.75 points in fantasy football, and that's just totally unacceptable. And you were playing the Jets. I mean, quite possibly the worst team in the league. So the fact that Ajayi, pooped the bed on me, and Bell just has not performed. Beckham's been hurt. I set Beckham this week in 2 leagues, put him on the bench, and he blew up. So that's on me. Some of these things I've got to take, and that's one of them. There was a couple more, but that's the ones that stick out to me the most. And leave your comments down below if you got something to chime in about how your teams are looking in any of these leagues or other leagues that I'm not talking about. Go ahead and chime in, throw them down below, and please, if you're watching my video, please hop onto my YouTube channel and give me a thumbs up, and do that for me right under here. Hit the like button. And I'll be back next week. We'll go over some. Hopefully, we've got good things to talk about. I don't want to start off the podcast like I did this one ever again. I want to move on from that. I want to progress, and let's hope that things get better from here. That's all we can do. I really hope that things change for the better between now and the next time I see you. So you guys have a good week. Like, share, subscribe. Remember, I'm your host, Scott Wilson. This is the Red Zone Faction. See you next Tuesday. God bless.
Leave the comments down below.